Okay, coming from the Windows background, I was accustomed to a program called AutoKey, which allowed me to use shortcuts to trigger little scripts and so on. And I was looking for something that would do the same thing on Linux when I moved to Linux. And I found something called AutoKey, but it doesn't have exactly the same functionality. For example, you cannot trigger, by default, you cannot trigger scripts with the F8 key as a modifier in combination with a normal second key. So just as an example, let's just install AutoKey here, and I'll show you what we've got. I install the GTK version because I'm on Ubuntu, which is Ubuntu based. Okay, now we should be able to find AutoKey in our, and sure enough, here it is, in our menu. So the first thing I did when I found out about this program was I looked at the sample scripts. They're basically Python scripts, and rather than mess with something that works, I cloned the item and then just rename it. So we can do this one. So date key. And so as you can see, neither of these, or none of these scripts down here have any hotkeys assigned to them, as you would see up here for the phrases. And the way you assign your own hotkey is you choose with using set hotkey, and then it gives you a choice of up to 6 different modifier keys and 1 normal key. And it actually works the opposite way you would think. You don't want to set the modifier first. You want to press to set your key. So I like the combination F8 and equals. So there's that, and hyper. I don't see an F8 here, and I cannot do that. So that's the problem. What do we do? So I'm going to cancel that. And the solution I found, and it took me several hours to figure this out, so hopefully it will save you some time, is to remap my function key that I wanted, which is the F8 key, to one of those modifier functionalities that hopefully isn't in use. So why go to all the bother? Well, first of all, that's how I had it set up with AutoKey. And secondly, I just like the combination because I can do it with one hand, and that F8 and the minus or equal sign combination isn't used for, I don't know of any other apps that I have that use that combination. There's probably something that does, but I don't. So here's how I went about it, and someone will probably be having better ideas, but the first thing I did was, well, let me just illustrate a little thing here. Search Xmodmap. I can never remember the name for the utility, so here, yeah, it's Xkeycaps. I'm going to go ahead and install that just because it'll illustrate. You don't have to do this. Don't actually install Xkeycaps because there's no need. It's actually easier, I think, to do it at the command line, but I just wanted to, it's a little more graphical. So let's go into our accessories. Let's see, I'm thinking it's in System Tools. Where'd it go? Xkeycaps. I forgot where it is. Well, it's supposed to appear here. Here it is, under preferences, of course. Who would have thunk otherwise? Okay, so this is just asking me to choose what kind of keyboard I have. I'm just going to take the default PC 105 keyboard, which is fine. And basically, you see we have a keyboard map, and as I hover over each key, it shows up under in this area what the key code for that key is, and I just happen to be over the F8 key, and what the key symbol is assigned to it under, I believe, X Windows, judging by the name of the utility. So, of course, this is hex, and this is decimal. I'm just going to worry about the decimal because that's easier for me to think about. So we have F8, and it's looks like some sort of, I don't know, F8 switch, VT8. I don't know, but all of these are F8, F8, F8. Now, it's not intuitive. In case you ever do decide to use it, this Xkeycaps program, the way you reassign keys, and you can reassign any key to any other key, is you right-click, and that gives you access to the kingdom. You can't do anything without that, and I had to look it up to figure out how to get in it. So you can disable a key, you can duplicate it, exchange keys, and I think what I'm going to do here is none of the above, because I just wanted to show how this works, and we're going to do it manually. But well, let's just go here. Let's just disable the key, and let's exchange keys. Well, let's see. Let's edit the key. That's what I want to do. And so basically now you can see that there's no symbol attached to the F8 key. This is the key with this code. And to be honest with you, I don't know Xkeycaps well enough to know exactly how all this works. In fact, I don't know whether I want auto repeat on or not. I just know what worked for me. So, but in the meantime, there's just keep in mind there's modifiers, and you have 7 of them. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And in Linux, you have a shift, lock, control, mod 1 and through 5. And this isn't telling me very much, so I don't know which ones are in use already. But these are basically, I think of them as meta or abstract versions of our controllers and our symbols, and they allow us to map specific keys to other keys via this terminology here. And then obviously, and you have to see, here's a keyboard. Then you have to scroll through this. You got to open it up all the way to see what's going on, and then hear this. And these are all the different keys that are available to you to map to that key. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel this, and I go back to, oh, I didn't mean to do that. Let's go back to Preferences, Xkeycaps, and let's see, that's okay. And I want to just restore default map. Otherwise, it's not going to show you what I want it to show. So, and then we can close that. And now I'm going to go to the terminal and do it the way I did it the first time, which is, in my opinion, a little easier, even though it was a little bit tricky. So here we are in the terminal, and I used a little, well, let's see. Xmodmap is just a simple utility that keeps track of what Windows is doing with the keyboard. And here are, as you remember, those modifiers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I guess, if I'm counting right. And as you can see, each of these meta keys, functionalities, if you will, is assigned to one or more other things. For example, shift is assigned to both the left and the right key. That's a clue that we might be able to separate those later. Then we have caps lock in use, Control L, Control R, right and left control, right and left alt keys, which are assigned to the modifier, mod 1, and control left and right are both assigned to control. By default, they don't distinguish each other. From my limited reading on this, I understand that some of these modifiers aren't even used in our modern OSs, and they come from an old keyboard called the Space Cadet keyboard. So I'm not sure what purpose they serve, but as you can see, we've got meta left and meta right. I don't know. Haven't used that one in a long time, so I don't even know what key it corresponds to. There's some controversy in Wikipedia whether it is the super key or not, or the Windows key as some people call it. But anyway, the main thing I want you to notice here is that mod 3 is not in use. Also, I don't know if you remember from the Xkeycaps GUI program, but hyper right functionality is not in use, whatever hyper right and left are. So I got the idea, what if I map my F8 key to hyper right, and then in turn map mod 3 to hyper right, mod 3 functionality, and there's some overlap in how these work. It's not entirely a linear logical one-to-one relationship, obviously. So I'm not sure I understand it all, but it seems to work for me. So how can we do that? Well, first of all, I have to figure out what is F8, what code is it generating? And for that, there's a nifty little utility called Xev that creates a little GUI window, which we'll pull up here. And as long as that window is active, anything I do in this window is reflected at the very bottom of the black terminal screen. So if I type an equal sign, for example, it shows here the last two lines, or the last three lines are the key code 21, key sim, and equal. So, and then if I type a minus sign, same idea, key code 20 and minus sign. So the one I wanted to remap is F8. So let's type that, and I get a key press event and a key release event both. But for our purposes, we only need to look at one, which is we'll just look at the release, which is third line from the end there, and it says it's key code 74, and it's mapped currently to F8. Well, that's just the information I need, because armed with that information, let's map that to mod 3, and voila, we will have the ability to trigger a hyper key with a function key, which normally only has the usual functionality of a key. So, well, let's Control C out of that and see, well, how do I do that? Well, remember we looked at Xmodmap to make this happen. So the thing to remember is that we can just create a custom, let's see if it's here. We can just create a custom file that is opened by Xmodmap, and we put it in our local user directory. So it's the name that we have to save it under, and this has to be in our home directory, so we'll just put it in home, is .X modmap. Surprise, surprise. Okay, so, and with that, 3 simple lines. First one, in my case, is clear mod 3. Now, the principle being that it's good practice to clear the modifier before you assign anything to it. I read somewhere in the docs that was important. Since there wasn't anything signed to it, I don't think it's actually that is important, but I did it anyway. So key code 74 was the one that we want to map. That's our F8 key, and we're going to assign that first to hyper right, and then on the next line we're going to add mod 3. And I don't really know what this means, but we basically, and we save that, We basically have cleared mod 3, added the hyperwrite symbol meaning to keycode 74, and added mod 3 meta-analysis or meta meta whatever to the hyperwrite. So forgive the terminology, but let's just go. Oh, and I forgot one last thing. None of this will work. Let's just try this. Xmodmap. You see there's no change. None of this works until we reboot. And at least there may be another way to retrigger this, probably by refreshing Windows somehow, but I'm fairly new to Linux. So just what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut down everything and stop the recording temporarily. And when I come back, we will be booted up again, everything being identical, except for we'll check Xmodmap and see if it works after rebooting. Okay, we're back. First thing I'll do is I'll open up a terminal and let's see what Xmodmap says we have now. And voila, there we go. Mod 3 has been assigned hyperwrite, which, if you recall, one of the 6 modifiers in AutoKey is hyperwrite. So that's going to come in useful. And also in our mod map, we assigned F8 to mod 3. So hopefully that will cause F8 to trigger hyperwrite, which is basically what we're trying to do. We're trying to make our function key generate an hyperwrite modifier symbol. Let's see if that's true. So let's try Xev, which is how we monitor what's actually being generated here. And let's take a look at the bottom line here. And I'm just moving around my mouse, so that's a bunch of garbage. But when I'm going to go ahead and hit the F7 key, which is not the one we remapped. Remember, we remapped F8. F7, I'm sorry, what did I do? That was F6. Okay, let's try. F7 is keycode 73, as you can see. And now I'm going to try F8, which we would think gives keycode 74, good enough, and F8, at least that's what it gave last time. But nope, this time it gives keycode 74 and hyperwrite. So crossing fingers, this should work. Control C, out of there. And let's see if it does. So let's go back to our AutoKey. And remember, we have a script here with the insert date hotkey of combination of, oh, we did not set it. Okay. So let's set it. Over here, set the key. Press to set. I want to make it the combination F8, function 8, and equals. So first I'm going to press equals, and then I'm going to press hyper. Remember, because we connected F8 to hyper. So there we go. And let's see if that's okay. Oh, nothing happened. I discovered that you have to save it, and then you have it appear there. So now let's try it out. Let's go to our accessories and open text editor. You're going to have to take it on faith here that all I'm hitting is F8 and equals. F8 and equals, and it, sure enough, it triggers this script, which is not exactly what I want, but it's close, and I will be formatting it, but that's for another video or another time. Anyone can look into Python scripting and find out how to do that easily. Okay, this is just a brief bonus here. I just wanted to walk through the formatting of the date time script. It's not a big deal, but basically this is our default sample script. We created this one and I actually messed up and deleted the hotkeys. So let's set those to, let's see, this is going to be press to set. Let's go equal and hyper. So that should work. And I'm going to change the name of it to something like year, month, and day, because that's what I want it to be. So the way we make that happen is we import date time, and then it's important to get the spacing right here. I've had problems with putting an extra or not enough space, or capitalizing when I shouldn't, and so on. So capital Y, M, and D, small m and small d should be year, month, and day. Let's see if that works. We have to save it before it works, of course. And then let's check it out here. Put a new page. And then this is F8 and the plus. So actually what I wanted to do is I like minus. Let's duplicate this. Let's clone it. So I like the minus to include the time. So I'm going to rename this one date time. And we're going to add the time code at the end, which in my case I'm going to just go underscore percent hour percent m percent p. Now notice here that we have two m's. The capital M is important because if you make it small, you're going to get the same the same minutes all month long. So capital M is minutes, small m is month. Just a small little tidbit. Okay, and let's check it out here. So let's try, that's going to be our plus. I'm going to make this one, I'm going to give it a minus. Press key to, that's minus and hyper. Okay, so with this, let's just try it. F8 and a minus sign still doesn't do anything because we didn't save it. Okay, F8 and a minus sign gives us the date, month, and year, month, and day. And I'm going to hit enter here, and F8 and the plus sign or equal sign is date, month, and day, and the time. So now you know when I recorded this. I hope this was helpful, and then definitely it will be useful to me in case I forget how to do this. If you like it, feel free to like the video or share it, but have a great day.